Yeah, I just saw the Gavin Newsom tweet popped up on my feed. Apparently 3 hours ago, Newsom is complaining. He's lamenting that this is Trump's America. And following the tweet, the words accompanying it is a photo of National Guardsmen, I presume, somewhere in Chicago. And looking at this, seem they are doing something like either pepper spraying or tasing some guy in black, some Antifa dude. And I guess, according to Democrats, this is a bad thing. They do not fundamentally understand that most of America is looking at this and is thinking about damn time. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the program. Good to be here with you, as per usual, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. My email, sam@what'srightshow, sam@what'srightshow. And, of course, my X account, my Twitter, formerly known as @what'srightsam. So, Newsom also tweeted out, "Aha, we got him," referring to the firebug that was apprehended and arrested, charged with setting the blaze in the Palisades earlier in the year. This is story, part of the story, of course, being that this guy's a Dem, he's a lib. Add this to the growing list of left-wing violence in the country. He's a big donor to Joe Biden. Did you see this, Robbie? Federal Election Commission reports show that the defendant, this guy's name is Knindernecht. Rindernecht. Jonathan. That he donated back in 2020 $2 to Joe Biden's election campaign. Not a big donation, but anyway, give some insight who this guy is. Apparently, he had been working with ChatGPT, creating images. You can prompt, AI, but Grok does this too. You can prompt it to create a photo or a short video in some cases. And what he had in there was he wanted to basically was asking for these arson-themed pictures, images to be created, asking specifically for a dystopian image of a burning city. And the FBI releasing, and the U.S. Attorney's Office releasing this as evidence, part of their indictment against him and probable cause affidavit. Side note here, as a lawyer, I think people do not realize that what you put into ChatGPT is just like what you put into Google or any other search engine. It is discoverable, meaning the police can get it. There is no privilege when you Google or when you chat GPT or AI stuff. This is let me just tell you, this is what gets me as an attorney, because the new hot thing right now is to just ask chat GPT questions about your case. It doesn't matter. It could be a civil case, personal injury case, right? Criminal case in particular. Whatever you put in there, people can find it. They can get it. When you talk to an attorney, when you speak to an actual lawyer, your conversation, whatever you tell him or her, is protected. The other side, the insurance company, the prosecutor, whoever it is, they can't get at it. But if you just type stuff into the computer, ChatGPT or otherwise, it can be gotten. So anyway, that's what the authorities did here. There is also an eyewitness report at the scene that he left via an Uber. He appeared agitated. So he's facing perhaps the arson charge up to 20 years. But if it was intentionally set, which it seems that it was, the death penalty potentially. Don't think that they're going to be doing that in California, but we shall see. Now, here's my thought here, and I also want to get into today some updates on the shutdown. We're now in the second week. There's a big picture theme right now. And we talk about it almost every day here on the program in one small way or another. And that is that the Democratic Party has devolved in a very short period of time, relatively short, 10 years or so, have devolved into some kind of a blob of angry, hostile, violent, intellectually incurious, philosophically damaged, morally damaged people. That doesn't mean every single Democrat. I don't mean the voters, at least not all of them. But most of the leadership has either gone full this way or they are not doing anything actively to stop it. They're pandering to the worst people within their movement. And I've wondered why this is. Why? How could it be? Look, it's coming up a lot now as Democrats have shut down the government to provide free health care for illegals. And so many people who have time on their hands, like we do here on the program, go back through the archives of these same Democrats now fighting for this, talking not that long ago, 10, 12 years ago, maybe 15, about how immigration needs to be, there has to be legal immigration. Their immigrants have to come to this country, earn their way, can't give free stuff to illegals, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, you're thinking, what happened here? And I'm convinced fundamentally that the major problem the Democratic National Committee, specifically the Democratic Party, right, has had is that they have basically resolved to, they've decided somewhere along the way that they're going to let everybody in and that they're not going to stand for anything because leftism, right, the nihilism in leftism is that there is no meaning in life. And if there is no meaning in life, then there's no meaning to words, right? There's no meaning in science. Science is whatever is politically expedient in the moment. And so the Democrats have actually adopted a number of positions, some that actually, when you think about it, kind of contradictory. On one hand, the Democratic Party purports to be the party that protects women, the party of feminism. On the other hand, it's a party that protects and advances transgender rights, which then implicates, of course, putting male sexual predators, in some cases, who are dressing as women, into female-only spaces, putting women at danger. This happens all the time. And you'd think these two positions would be irreconcilable, and yet somehow they are in the minds of the Democrats. Because, of course, nothing means anything. Double negatives. Right? It's nothing, just it's a nothingness. By standing for nothing, more importantly, the left has put themselves in a place where they're too weak to stand up to the leftist terrorists that are slowly taking over the party. The Democrats have embraced a bunch of, as I see it, anti-human, anti-growth, anti-civilization policies. The burn it all down people, right? The Democrats that just want to bring about the end of capitalism seem to have an outsized voice inside the Democratic body politic. So this is it, right? Cynically, I think it's all about power. And that's what they've always used as their selling point for their base. Look, we are going to get power. We're going to get power. With that power, we're going to help you. But do Democratic policies actually help people? Are blue cities, if you think about it, a place like Los Angeles, that's a blue city inside of a blue state. And not that long ago, early January, it was a blue city in a blue state with a blue Democrat president. President, governor, mayor, all Democrats. Are people objectively well off? Are the poor better off in LA than they are, let's say, in red cities? And I would submit to you folks that actually the poor are worse off. The poor, unlike the rich that can hide behind the gates of their palatial estates or gated neighborhoods with guards. The poor are at the front lines of being exposed to criminal elements, gang warfare, have businesses that provide them services fleeing those areas. Those are the neighborhoods that are being turned into arid deserts, economically, culturally, and of course, public safety-wise. So who are the Democrats really helping? And the answer is just themselves, which is why a new Democratic Party resembles more resembles communism that was always intended to help those with the power at the top. Never has purported the general public, the working classes, et cetera, et cetera. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Quick break here. And I'll get to Katie Porter too. Oh my God. If you did not see this video, just stay tuned. I'm going to get to all of this today.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Good to be with you. Let's see. Once upon a time, I lived in California. You guys know the story. I, after all, am Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. And I remember, we got, what was his name? Well, we got Jerry Brown as a governor. Jerry Brown came before Gavin Newsom. And Jerry Brown was a Democrat. Of course, he had been governor before and was a crazy leftist, but we all complained about him, right, as Republicans, but he was actually sort of a middle-of-the-road guy and from time to time would veto the insane things coming out of the already then Democrat-controlled legislature. Of course, Jerry Brown served 2 terms. He leaves office. Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom comes in. And for every person that I know on our side that complained about Gavin Newsom, about Jerry Brown, then couldn't believe it and actually missed Jerry Brown when Newsom was in. Now Newsom's in the news. Newsom wants to be our next president, which is something I'm going to do everything in the power of my being as a radio personality, as an American. We cannot let it happen, folks, because what he's done to California is nothing short of disastrous. But I bring this up because we're talking about the Democratic Party and how it's devolving, basically rotting before our very eyes. Could it be worse? Could it be worse than Gavin Newsom for the poor folks still left behind in the Communist Republic of California? And the answer is a resounding yes. Something went viral yesterday. A video of an interview conducted by CBS News out in California sat down with Katie Porter. Now, back when I lived in Irvine, Katie Porter was my congressperson. Katie Porter's the one who showed up in a Batgirl costume for an impeachment hearing. Do you remember this? She is not a particularly bright person. She is not a good-looking person at all. But she's also just a crazy left-winger. And somehow, some way, she got herself elected. Irvine, that district used to be conservative, used to be Republican. It had some zoning boundary changes. It became liberal, became Democrat, reliably Democrat. And so she got a little bit of power. Now she's, working her way up. Now she's intent on becoming the next governor. She's the leading contender for governor. And here is, they, you know, of course, they sit down with her because they've got this redistricting fight. Prop 50, this is Gavin Newsom's push against Republicans and push against Trump, sticking it to Texas. So California is doing its own version of it. They can't do it in the legislature because it's a constitutional amendment. There's a commission that sets these, an independent commission that sets these boundaries. So they need to take it to the public to overrule all that. So there's a big political fight out in California, Proposition 50. So anyway, a journalist, not Fox News. Okay, this is CBS local news. These are not hard-hitting questions. This woman interviewing her is probably a lib. And so again, not a hardball interview. Well, this is how it started.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, ma'am?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're saying.
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position.
Okay. Notice how she's asked about how do you reach out to the 40% of Californians that voted for Trump? And her answer is, I don't need them. Basically, who gives an SHI, you know what? And right there is everything I started with at the beginning of the program, talking about how the Democrats are intellectually incurious, how they are basically fakers. All they care about is power. The only thing that matters to her is getting power, is getting elected. There's no attempt to make inroads. There's no attempt to build a broad coalition. There's no attempt here, effort, even a pretense of effort to maybe not ignore almost half of the state. Here's the problem. Occasionally you get one like Katie Porter, who is so fundamentally idiotic that she says what they all are thinking and saying privately behind closed doors out loud. She's like the Jay Jones of killing, your opponent's political opponent's kids. Okay. Jay Jones is dumb. He says it. He wrote it in a text. He said it. He didn't keep his thoughts to himself. And neither is she here. Okay. This is a nationally viral clip right now. It is the most viewed thing politically in the last 24 hours. I came upon it last night, well after I got off air. And of course, I know Katie Porter, and I've had, well, she was my congressman. What can I tell you? I've seen her many times. And I absolutely dislike her. Fundamentally think she's terrible and unfit to serve in any kind of office. I wouldn't make her a dog catcher. Okay. So I'm not surprised by any of this, right? So I'm looking at the clip and I go, this is it. This is exactly the state of the Democratic Party. Power only. There are no deliverables for the people. The only deliverable is I get elected. Think about how incredibly conceited and narcissistic this is. By the way, I got an email from a listener, Kelly, mentioning this. Sam, you overlook individual psychology in your analysis of Democrats. A lot of them are narcissistic children who, when the tide turns against them, have no ability to recognize reality. When the electorate turns their back on them, they have no skills to deal with adversity. It must be everybody else's fault. Well, Kelly, you're exactly right, and that's what's on display here. It's just about her. It's about her power. It's about the Democrats' power. It's about wielding that power. And to the rest of us, who might have a slightly different opinion, sit back down, peasants. Be quiet. I don't need you. I'm going to talk over you. And by the way, in the interview, I'll get to this here when we come back, things go south when she gets challenged. And that's precisely to your point, Kelly. So we'll get to that when we return. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Have a quick story for you about Sam and Ash injury law. Yesterday, we had a longtime listener refer a friend of his to the firm, called Sam and Ash, got Ian on the phone, a conversation about what was going on, got everything signed, paperwork done in minutes, basically. And then the same day, the very same day, the client was talking to Jason in our office, had the team already working on everything, and it was easy peasy. And the best thing is that the referral that the listener had, and this is just very grateful for his confidence in us. The referral she said, "I'm so happy I made this choice. I was looking at other firms. I was talking to other people. I just feel differently talking to you guys here at Sam and Ash. Sam and Ash Injury Law, a different kind of law firm. Focused on the client, will take care of you, your case, and get you on the path to better quickly. 702-820-1234, 702-820-1234, offices in Nevada and California, because you deserve what's right. Now, Katie Porter had a devastating interview yesterday. It was so bad. Oh my gosh, holy smokes, people. Here's where it went off the rails. Now, who's Katie Porter? Katie Porter wants to be the next governor of California. And given that the current governor of California wants to be our next president, I mean, it's not a stretch to presume that perhaps Katie Porter someday, if she's successful, destroying California further, would use that on her resume to someday seek higher office. Well, I'm not so sure. Does she think better on her feet than Kamala Harris? Well, everybody does. But that doesn't mean that she's good. This is what happened. CBS News investigates local channel out in California, sat her down, and started asking her, okay, well, what do you mean about this? You don't need 40% of the country. Because basically in the first part of the interview, it says, I don't need the people that voted for Trump. Why are you even asking me about that? I don't need them. Screw them. The deplorables, the hell with those people. I'm going to win without them. I don't need them. I played that clip right before the break. So here is part 2 of the disaster. This is where it goes off the rails, and the cringe factor is like a 9.2 out of 10.
I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't
I
think
feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
correct. And I said I support it.
50.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters. Okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
And she basically bails on the interview. It was a terrible thing to say. Now, I have to tell you guys, I had an friendly argument with producer Robbie during the break. Robbie, I'm sorry. I don't mean to tell tales out of school. I think you're wrong, but we'll let the audience decide. Okay. There's a part in the first portion of the interview where she says, the journalist asks Porter, what if it's you versus another Democrat? I don't know if you guys caught this, but Porter answers, I don't intend that to be the case. Now, Robbie, who is the other half of my brain, Robbie claims that this is intended as some kind of election rigging, kind of like Hillary 2016, Kamala 2024. But I actually just chalk this up to being her stupidity. Let me explain it to you, Robbie. You know, California has this ranked choice voting, the same thing they're trying to push on us here in Nevada. And ranked choice voting basically means that the top two vote getters in the primary essentially then go on to face off in the general, roughly, okay? What happens in states like California is that it's possible, it's very possible for the person that you're running against in the general, because there's so many Democrats, you know, that the person you're running against basically is two Democrats in the general election, okay? Ranked choice voting is something that's almost always pushed by Democrats in blue-leaning states because they basically rig the election so that neither candidate, now basically a Democrat can't lose. It's going to be a Democrat one way or the other. And that's why I'm so fundamentally opposed to it. I think primaries are for parties. They should be closed primaries. Only Republicans vote for Republicans. Independents do, you know, sorry, you're an independent. Libertarians for libertarians, Democrats, etc., right? I think she means that it's not going to happen, that she's probably, because there's a bunch of Democrats running, that she's going to end up running against a Democrat in the general election. And I also think it's monumentally idiotic for her to then, knowing this or thinking this way, which is a reasonable thought to have in California, maybe, to go, oh yeah, I don't need any of the Republicans. I don't need the Trump voters. Screw the Trump voters. Because in the general, it will perhaps make or break your campaign as one of two Democrats. If you are the more moderate Democrat, you're going to get, if you're the Democrat that's trying to make inroads with Republicans, you're going to get some of those votes, 5%, 7%, 8%, whatever it is. You'll get some votes, and it could very well make or break your, you know, get you across the finish line. Now, Robbie, you say that this is a slip of the tongue, suggesting that there's some sort of, you know, setup here. Maybe, but I'd have to know the theory of how she would possibly rig this thing. No, Robbie, you're not the left half of my brain. No. That's not true. That's funny. So that's what I think. But it's still, this is so instructive of where the Democratic Party is. The conceit of it, whether Robbie is right or whether I'm right, almost doesn't matter. In either case, the chutzpah, right, of the Democrats, we're just going to run right over you. We're going to cheat, we're going to steal, we're going to rig, we're going to ignore. I mean, we just went through, and I know Trump is Orange Hitler. I understand this, right? I've been informed. So we just went through an entire election where Trump did a lot of outreach to Democrats, to disenchanted Democrats, right? And by all accounts, he got a lot of them on board. In fact, I would argue that Trump could not have won in November had it not been for his immense outreach to leftists and disenchanted old school leftists. Democrats like to have jobs too. Democrats like to put food on the table too. Democrats don't like inflation, just like Republicans don't like inflation, right? And so, I mean, he did. It's a known fact that he got Democrats. He converted Democrats, and that's how he won. And in a state like California, because here's the other part of it. The Democrat coalition has gotten so fractured and frayed and crazy and filled with destructive elements that Republicans are making inroads there. I don't know. It's kind of like New York. I don't know if it's enough to do anything, right? But notice how in New Jersey, a blue state for, most of my adult life, suddenly glimmers of hope that a Republican governor can get across the finish line. Pennsylvania went for Trump in the last election. These should be cautionary signs for the Democrats in other states where they have always taken their success for granted. No, it's just wild. Oh, wait, we have more of the interview. This, by the way, it kept getting better. Here's how it ended.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered.
I don't
our
care.
follow-ups.
I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never
reporter.
had to do this before, ever.
You've never had to have a
end an
conversation
interview.
with
To end
a
an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
What part of I'm me? I'm running for governor because I'm a leader. So I am going to make...
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters? Okay, why don't we go through? I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues that they care about.
So she then ends this thing begging, sort of in a sly way, not so sly way, I don't really want this on camera. I don't blame her either. This is the state, again, this is the state of the Democratic Party. Who are their winners? I got, Hakeem Jeffries just got into the lamest shouting match with a Republican member of Congress, a fellow member of Congress. The Republican's not shouting, he's confronting. Weak sauce. These people are not, these are not the Obamas or the Clintons of the Democratic Party. We're now on the, this is, the varsity team has left the field. We have, AOC's like the best that they've got right now. Jeez Louise. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Hi, welcome back. What's Right show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. So Katie Porter, after her meltdown, Katie Porter wants to be the next governor of California. Big Democrat. By the way, literally a large lady. I one time, it's a true story, I was at the In-N-Out Burger. I love In-N-Out. Have to say that. First and foremost, love In-N-Out. And I was there with my wife and kids, and we were, I'll tell you exactly which one it was. This is when we were still living in California. It was the Irvine location across from UCI, University of California, Irvine. Well, there's another acronym. I'm not going to repeat that one. But regardless, we were there. We were enjoying a nice family meal. I look up, and in the table next to us is Katie Porter with her husband, the one that she scalded with mashed potatoes a couple years later after this time. They got into a huge fight, and she poured scalding mashed potatoes on him, burned him. So she's there with the husband. Poor guy, looks like he's kept under lock and key, and the kid. And the whole family is eating. Now, I love In-N-Out, but they have like the worst order. And sometimes, you know how you look at other people's In-N-Out order? Like, I judge you, Robbie, for your In-N-Out order. The Flying Dutchman thing, what the hell is that? It's a patty with cheese on it, right? Get out of here. There's no bun. There's no anyway. So her order was like the opposite of your order, Robbie. It had everything on it. It was a stacked burger. I don't know if it was a 4x4, whatever it was, animal style. There's just stuff dripping out of it. The fries have animal style with the sauce and the whatever, the cheese. And oh my, it was like, and she was going to town. It wasn't even so much the food. It was just the way she was eating. Like, I'm not going to say it, but it was a little porcine. Okay. Just going into it like a trough. I think that's the last time I saw Katie Porter. Nonetheless, this interview, horrific, basically said, oh, I'm just going to ignore, I don't need Trump voters to win. I don't need 40% of the state vote for. I don't care about them. Who cares? I'm going to do it without them. I don't need them. It's another deplorable moment. Someone is dead. Someone is hurt. Someone is silent. But one thing they all have in common is that we don't matter a hill of beans to them. They don't care. We are nothing to them. I'm just going to let that sink in. Because we've talked a lot about this leftist violence. So I got together, everybody's talking about this thing, agonizing over it, particularly all the Democratic strategists. So here this morning, Mark Halperin, Sean Spicer, Dan Tour, talking to Dan Turrentine about Katie Porter. And here's how this went.
What would you say to her if you were staffing her and she did that?
Well, the challenge is that is who Katie Porter is. I spent a lot of time around that office. For those who don't know, she went to Harvard Law School. Elizabeth Warren was one of her professors. She considers herself kind of an acolyte of Elizabeth Warren. She is condescending and patronizing. She absolutely believes that she is right. You are wrong. She's smarter than you. It comes across. So, you have to start with, Mark, the fact that, like, you have to sit and ask questions and have respect for the person who's asking you questions. She doesn't respect Trump voters, and she didn't respect those type of questions. You just can't talk to people like that. And that is Katie Porter's problem. It's why so many people dislike her and disliked her in Congress.
Yeah. Do you guys think she's the front runner?
I hope so. We might actually have a chance in California if she is.
She is today because the base loves her.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it. Keep more cowbell. Keep it up, guys. Keep it up, Democrats. More of whatever this is. Just double down on the crazy. By the way, remember Katie Porter got her butt handed to her by both Bill Maher, Pierce Morgan. This was back April of 23. Bill Maher discussing the Pentagon leaker, and they're getting into this conversation about Gen Z more immature than previous generations, and anyway, here's the conversation.
They're constantly seeking affirmation. This is because of things like Instagram.
It's
like you post something and people validate you.
But
So
to use national security secrets for that?
Well, because
the level of bad judgment.
Right, but the real scandal is not that he wants to do it.
It's kind of old.
What?
And grumpy right now. I mean, let's be clear.
Sorry?
Yeah. Such a
Kids
bullshit.
are immature. That's why they're kids.
Not at 21. Not all over the world.
21-year-olds are immature. That's why we don't let them drink until they're 21. That's why some of us don't think that 20-year-olds or 19-year-olds ought to be able to go get AR-15s.
They can go fight.
I think there are arguments.
They can be in the Army.
Well, I think that's a discussion we should have, because I think
They
the
can
more
vote.
we know about
I thought if you vote, you should be able to have a certain level of maturity. They're deciding whether you should be in Congress or not.
Well, and by the way, I win those votes.
What?
And I win those votes, and I'm proud of it. But what I'm saying is
you just said you win the votes of the immature.
Well, but the immature, first off, immaturity is not necessarily an age thing. You can be immature
But you just
into
played
your
the age
adulthood.
card.
Yeah.
You were like, our argument sucks because we're old, which is
No, I didn't say that. I
that's
said
getting
you
so
sounded-
boring.
And by the way, I'm only 58, just for the record.
That's
What? I mean, but
not young.
shouldn't we critique each other on the content of our ideas, not on those identity politics?
Wow, Bill Maher sounding almost reasonable. But what's the point? She thinks she's brilliant. This is a condescension of these politicians. thinks she's brilliant, and then she makes this point about how, well, kids are immature, that's why they're kids, and then 21, well, but they already vote, they already can buy alcohol, they do everything. At 21, I mean, there's really no restriction. They can go fight, they can be in the army. She at one point tries to make it about guns. This is all of it so silly. All right. When we come back, I want to get into a little update too on the Palisades Fire here, what we know about it and the guy that they arrested. I also want to get into what's going on day 8 of the shutdown and where it's going to go from here. Interesting stuff.
Let me ask you a question. Did you get permission from your boss?
Why don't we sign on right now?
Did your boss, Donald
You
Trump?
can easily extend
Did your
the
boss,
ACA
did your
right
boss
now.
Donald Trump
He's
give
not
you
my
permission?
boss.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. By the way,
So let me ask you a
why
question.
did you vote to
Let me
shut
ask
the
you a
government
question.
down?
You
Why
know
did
I
you
didn't-
vote to shut
Let me
it down?
ask you a question.
For years, you always lectured about how we need to keep the government open.
You're making a show of this to
No,
make
it's
yourself
sad.
relevant.
It's sad. You could easily sign on.
This, friends, this was moments ago on Capitol Hill, confrontation between Mike Lawler, Republican congressman, and Hakeem Jeffries, the anointed leader of the merry band of Democrats in the House of Representatives, over Lawler's proposal to fund the ACA. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840 KXNT. What does this mean? What is this all about, and why is it important? All good questions. By the way, my email is sam@whatsrightshow.com, sam@whatsrightshow.com, @whatsrightsam on X, formerly known as Twitter. So, the Democrats have been running around saying, look, no funding for healthcare, no funding, because we, of course, want funding for illegal immigrants getting healthcare, which means that the Obamacare plans for Americans, many of us may experience plans going up because the funding isn't there. They're holding all that hostage. They're saying, your costs are going to go up. So Republicans came along and said, okay, let's fund ACA plans, Obamacare plans, just for everybody who's got an ACA plan who happens to, be either a citizen or a lawful resident. And the Democrats said, no, this is everything you need to know about where they're coming from. No, this is exactly it, right? It's all a charade. It is intended to pressure Republicans, the shutdown, intended to pressure Republicans to cave on the subject of money for illegals. And I think it's important to keep reminding ourselves why the Democrats need this. There must be incentives for illegal immigrants to remain in the country. And the Democrats, by the way, the incentives have to go both ways. The incentives for the Democrats are clear. They bring in people and they give them a lot of free stuff. And then they provide them a path eventually for legalization or basically, permanent deferral. These people, once they begin to vote, and they may vote pretty quickly, will vote for Democrats. Going back to Katie Porter and her tirade, you get to understand that it's all about political power for the Democratic Party. So they're using this. Okay, they're going after the power. The incentives also have to be there, of course, for the illegals to stay. Trump is doing, via DHS and ICE, the darndest job, meaning I think a very good job, is doing a really good job at making it less appetizing for illegal immigrants to remain in the country. You see the sob story videos, right? You see the movies that they're filming, or the little social media posts that they're putting up, and these are posts that say something to the effect of, I've been here for 20 years, but it just can't go on. I'm stressed about getting deported. Every traffic stop is, I'm leaving. I'm going back to Mexico. I'm going back to Guatemala, whatever it is. And the media plays these videos from time to time saying, look, this is so awful. This is so horrible. Oh my gosh, And yet, okay, we're looking at those videos going, yes, this is exactly what we voted for. You didn't come to this country legally. So this, what do I think? I'm looking, we're day 8. Obviously, there are effects of the shutdown. I had a friend of mine who couldn't make a meeting last night for a board that I sit on. Couldn't make the meeting simply because his flight got canceled. The flight was canceled because there just weren't enough controllers for the airspace. So the airlines are starting to thin down their flights. I mean, it's going to be an issue. It's going to be a problem. I recognize this. But Republicans can't give up on this. And the question is, who will be seen as the good guy? There's another vote today that failed. I think this was the 7th or 8th vote. So Republicans keep showing up and saying, hey, we'll vote. I mean, we'll just vote on this. Are you going to give us a clean CR? Yes or no? The House has done its work. It's at the Senate. The Senate Democrats are holding it up. And I suspect that the longer this goes, there's just going to be immense pressure on the Democrats. The Democrats think they've got the issue that's going to get them across the finish line next November. But what if the country, on balance, sees the Democrats as obstructionists, working not for the American public, not for hardworking Americans, but rather for illegal immigrants who are freeloading off of our tax dollars? I don't know. I don't think it's a good look. And the other component to this that has technically nothing to do with the shutdown, but everything to do with it, are the ICE operations taking place in Portland, taking place in Chicago, the anti-Antifa operations, the deployment of the National Guard, which is currently on and happening in Chicago. And this is, again, the libs think they're going to run against this. Ordinary Americans are looking at this going, yes, this is what we want. Here was Chicago Mayor last night, press conference, talking about rejecting the military occupation of the city. Now, pay close attention to this.
We are unequivocally going to continue to reject the military occupation of our city. The Trump administration must end the war on Chicago. The Trump administration must end this war against Americans. The Trump administration must end its attempt to dismantle our democracy. Right as we are making historic progress in reducing violence, the Trump administration is seeking to destabilize our city and provoke chaos. We said that they would use ICE as a pretext to send in the National Guard. And now they are doing just that. I've also said for the last couple of years that the extreme right in this country refused to accept the results of the Civil War. They have repeatedly called for a rematch.
Yeah. Now, here's the problem. And this is where it gets a little bit dodgy for the Democrats. Once again, my sense is that they've walked into a trap. The trap was the moment when Chicago, Broadview, and other jurisdictions, including the state, frankly, state troopers in Illinois, refused to come to the assistance of federal agents who were in trouble, who were getting boxed in with their cars, were getting people drawing guns on them, real violence. The police chief in Broadview, Illinois, saying he was going to actively tear down fortifications that were put up to protect the ICE facility in the wake of rising violence. See, by doing this kind of stuff, the Democrats that run these cities, that run the state of Illinois, gave Trump an excuse to deploy the National Guard to protect federal assets. It's a textbook. If Trump today wanted to invoke the Insurrection Act, I'm of the belief, and I spent a bit of time looking at it all last night, I'm of the belief he could very well do it. Now, he hasn't, as of right now, at 2:00 in the afternoon or so, hasn't done it. I'm following it closely. There was a big announcement, 12:30 at the White House, the Antifa announcement, Trump is going after Antifa. This is big news. Pam Bondi had great remarks, which we'll play in a little bit. But Trump is within his power to do this. And it's the same thing that in California, ultimately, I think Trump's going to have gotten away with it because the National Guard was used, the limited purpose of protecting federal buildings and federal, officers and assets. See, what the left is trying to do is play the Antifa playbook on the streets, withdraw the police, give federal agents the Andy No treatment. The journalist who's been following, independent journalist who's been following Antifa for years now, always getting beaten up. And the police look the other way. It's a deliberate intimidation tactic of an independent reporter. But the same intimidation is occurring in Congress right now. Yeah, we're going to just burn the whole thing. We're going to burn the whole country down so we can get our little money, extra money to our little illegal feral pets that are part of our vast Democrat patronage network. Yeah, we're going to do that. Yeah, we don't care if ICE agents die. We want them to die, actually. We want them to get shot at because the more intimidated they are, the less they're likely to fulfill Trump's campaign promise of cleaning up illegal immigration and deporting illegal immigrants. It's all the same playbook. And the people behind it are basically idiots. And this is why I'm picking on Katie Porter today, because they're all like her. They are all just condescending, bloviating, nonsensical, intellectually incurious, dumb, and very arrogant, right? Very conceited idiots. Things are going well for us, by the way. We just have to be very careful and mind the fact that these people are very dangerous. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Market, the betting site for political things, other things as well, gives it an 82% chance of going beyond October 15th. The shutdown, that is. And why is that relevant? Well, 1.3 million members in the armed services may be missing their paycheck starting on that date. It's crazy. Sam Mirejovsky here, the What's Right Show brought to you by Salmon Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Salmon Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. I tell you, I just don't know. I just don't know what the Democrats are thinking here. I don't get it. It's just a terrible look. The shutdown is it's going to backfire on them. People are understanding that it's the illegal immigrant thing. The same way that people are understanding that American cities like Washington, D.C. were less safe objectively before the immigration enforcement crackdown and before the National Guard was deployed to clean things up. It's the same thing as in the last couple years of the Biden administration when they kept telling us that there wasn't any meaningful or significant rise in prices. They kept telling us, what is inflation? It's not it's passing, it's transitory. Janet Yellen, right? Famous last words. How do you tell somebody that it's transitory, that inflation ain't no thing but a chicken wing, and at the same time, they are experiencing pain in their monthly budget? My wife would tell me all the time, I went to the store, the same stuff I get was $50 more. And it seemed at times that it was going up in large increments, $25, $30 for the same stuff, accumulated, right? Family of five. It was just going up overnight, it seemed. Big jumps. You all experienced that too. The Democrats had no problem lying about it, okay? When it was something easily verified by every single person who does the shopping. Every person, whether, a housewife, a husband, single people, whoever goes out and does the shopping, you knew that what the Democrats were saying was bunk. But they said it anyway. And the same people today are swearing up and down, no, we're not giving any money to illegals. We all know they're giving money to illegals because have you ever been to the ER before the crackdown? Remember the word that we got after the big, beautiful bill was passed? The emergency room lines in places like Los Angeles, in sanctuary cities, suddenly shrunk way down. Some of it was enforcement, and the other part of it was the money dried up. And who is the primary donor to Democrats in California, in other blue states and jurisdictions? These clinics and hospitals that service illegal immigrants and get paid for it. Did you know that before all this crackdown, there was actually a higher rate paid for illegals? That's the wildest thing. It was a complete and total scam, and everybody was in on it. Well, everybody was benefiting except for you and me. This is wild. And then we're going to talk about the public safety thing because it's also an important topic. It's also something you know when you feel safe in a city. Even Democrats must know they don't actually go out at night. Do you know how many people I have spoken to? San Francisco, I'll give you that example. That's a city where the security conditions have deteriorated rapidly over the last, call it 8 years. Dramatic decline. And then once COVID came through and it became a ghost town and the companies never returned and more businesses were shuttered, it got even worse from there. Every single person I know that lives or travels regularly to San Francisco has told me it's terrible there. It's a nightmare, Sam. Oh my gosh. People have told me I can't. Some of these people are liberal. Oh, Sam, I used to be able to walk at night. Can't do it anymore. Have to take an Uber. If I'm going more than a block from my apartment, from my office, I Uber. I mean, it's great for Uber. You can see why the tech companies, why Uber and Amazon love when people are too afraid to go outside, are too afraid to shop at their local store. Love it when the Walgreens and, other stores get raided by all the mobs going and people stealing, shoplifting. Get a ticket, do it again, get a ticket, do it again. Don't pay the ticket, steal more to pay the tickets. Oh my gosh. They all benefit from it. When you start to look at the system of incentives that the Democrats have put in that help their donors, that help the people that put them into power to keep giving them money, keep giving them help, you realize they're in Washington just there working for themselves. Meanwhile, Trump, if I could put this into perspective, Trump's a guy who could retire, go to Mar-a-Lago, put his feet up, play YMCA, and enjoy life. Instead, he's zipping around the globe, solving problems. He's up and down the country trying to fix things, working, 21 hours a day. It's wild stuff. What's in it for him other than leaving a better country for his kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids? What would happen if this happened to your spouse? Was a question asked at a press conference in Chicago yesterday. Listen to this.
Well, the real Chicagoans that I talk to, that I communicate with, mostly black and brown, actually, tell me that you don't seem to know the difference between illegal aliens and real Chicago citizens. They feel that you are siding with the illegal aliens over them in their communities. And sadly,
William, let's get to the question.
Let's get to the question. The real question is simply this. I don't know how to make it any more direct. An illegal alien from Nicaragua grabbed a woman on the north side last week, bashed her head into the sidewalk, knocked her unconscious, and raped her. If that had been your wife, Stacey.
Okay, all right, we're not going to answer it. Thank you. Thanks, William.
All right. Would you want ICE
There it is.
to deport her?
All right. The mayor of Chicago, who has let the lawless gangs run amok, doesn't want to answer that question. It's awful. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Back after the break. Don't go anywhere. All right, friends, welcome back. What's Right show, making radio great again, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. right here on News Talk 840 KXNT. So, of course, one of the developments here that the fire, the Pacific Palisades fire in Los Angeles back in January, was set by a leftist guy, kind of a tear-down, nihilistic, communist guy who had, fantasies about, going after rich people. Anyway, first off, I want you to all remember that Gavin Newsom, when this whole thing broke out, talked endlessly about how this was global warming. Climate change was responsible for the fire. Remember all that? So that's just something to remind ourselves that it was arson and by a leftist. And nowhere in the mainstream media are you going to hear anything about that today. Now, there was another fire, a single home caught on fire of a prominent judge. This was a South Carolina judge. The fire happened in South Carolina. Here was a report about the South Carolina judge's house before any information was in. They didn't blame climate change. They went straight to hoping and praying that this was right-wing violence against leftists.
When we come back, what we're learning about the fire that destroyed the home of a South Carolina Circuit Court judge who faced criticism from Trump officials after a ruling she made against the Trump administration. It comes amid a surge in hostility and threats against judges, as well as criticism directly from the Trump administration, including for Judge Goodstein, after she temporarily blocked the Justice Department from accessing the files of millions of registered voters in South Carolina. Mary McCord is still with us. Mary, what questions do you have based on what we're hearing so far?
This is the kind, again, we've talked today already about crossing Rubicons, right? And when you're starting to attack judges because of their rulings, we're in a very, very dangerous position in this country. And it makes judges fearful. It makes prosecutors fearful, as we know. It makes others in positions where they could be criticized by Donald Trump fearful. And he needs to know the power of his voice and how people respond to that. We've been saying this for years, Nicole, but if this is what this turns out to be, some sort of politically motivated act of domestic terrorism, then, the importance and significance of the things that Donald Trump says about a person just, again, will be demonstrated in this instance.
What? On the very, week that we find out that the Palisades fire was started by a Biden supporter. No mention of that. But with no evidence whatsoever, the very same day that some judge's house catches on fire. By the way, authorities have since come in and said, no, there's no sounds. It was not arson. The fire was simply not intentionally set. No political angle, no intentional act, no crime. Okay. No retractions either. Watch, somewhere on some website, they're going to count this as right-wing violence. Now, this really just gets me. And you know what the worst part about it? Everything that this commentator said to Nicole Wallace on MSNBC, of course, everything that she said is true, but is actually true concurrently, right? And what the Democrats are doing, what Antifa is doing, in their fight to dissuade, freak out, scare away ICE and other federal law enforcement officials from fulfilling their duties. What did she literally say here? She says, well, it crosses the line, today we're crossing. When you're starting to attack judges because of their rulings, we're in a very dangerous position in this country. It makes judges fearful. It makes prosecutors fearful. What do you think Antifa and Democrats are trying to do right now with ICE agents? Aren't they trying to intimidate them, dox them, shoot at them, assault them, all in an effort to get them to stop what they're doing, which is executing lawful orders to protect the homeland, to expel illegal immigrants? That's a lawful exercise of federal power. And what is this business of starting to attack judges? Do you know what happened on Sunday? This was on Monday. Do you know what happened on Sunday? The day before, a man with 200 explosives and a leftist manifesto was arrested outside a Supreme Court event in D.C. He was outside of a church holding a mass in honor of the Supreme Court. He had a manifesto he suggested that was targeting Supreme Court and Catholics. His name is Louis Jerry. He's 41 years old, from Arizona. He was apprehended outside literally a cathedral where mass was going on. Now, this mass, because it's held in the honor of the Supreme Court, start of the Supreme Court's term, which was a couple days ago, is frequently attended by Supreme Court justices, not Ketanji Brown Jackson, mind you, likely the conservative justices who happen to be Catholic. This could have been bad. He could have taken out half the Supreme Court. And nobody's talking about it. The left is literally imagining right-wing violence and completely denying multiple acts of leftist, extremist violence. These people are terrorists. And MSNBC and everybody else in the media is just carrying water for them. This is why I love that Trump went after Antifa about 12:30 today, so 3:30 local time in D.C. He had a bunch of people over at the White House, gave a press conference how Antifa is getting designated a terrorist organization and what that means. And Pam Bondi spoke at this presser, and I really liked what she had to say.
He was pushed down and assaulted, yet the local police arrested Nick, not the Antifa thugs who did this to him.
She's talking about Nick Sartor, who's the independent journalist who was out there reporting on something in Portland. Basically, he got arrested when he had been attacked. He was the victim.
Antifa feels empowered to operate in the open because weak Democrats have turned a blind eye to their actions. Their hatred for President Trump and for law and order agendas fuels their violence. We've seen more than 1,000% increase in attacks against our ICE agents since January 20th.
Exactly. Now, Pam Bondi goes, what are we going to do about it, right? So enough talk. How is this going to happen? How are we going to do it? Well, she says we're going to break down Antifa brick by brick, just like we did the cartels. More of this, please.
We're not going to stop at just arresting the violent criminals we can see in the streets. Fighting crime is more than just getting the bad guy off the streets. It's breaking down the organization brick by brick. Just like we did with cartels, we're going to take the same approach, President Trump, with Antifa. Destroy the entire organization from top to bottom. We're going to take them apart. Thanks to your bold leadership and the designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization, which is exactly what they are, Americans will no longer tolerate their unhinged violence.
Yeah, this has to happen. So they're going to go after them with RICO. They're going to go after them with every tool at the disposal of the Department of Justice, and because it's funded. So the left is funding, just like Iran funds Hamas and Hezbollah, so too do leftist organizations fund Antifa. They cleverly, mask it through various NGOs. This whole entire network that does this has to be taken apart. And the most important thing is going back to the civil rights movement. The whole time growing up, everybody would always talk about the benchmark of what the civil rights movement was about. And no, but really, I mean, when Eisenhower, JFK, LBJ, they each federalized the National Guard and went into several states of the U.S. that were willfully disobeying federal law. This is how the civil rights movement, part of the history, right? You had local governors and mayors and other local officials in these states saying, yeah, federal law, go, we do things differently here in Alabama. We're going to disregard what you have to say. Integrate the schools? Not really. We're not going to do that. And their local law enforcement would act directly in contradiction to the federal government. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Sam, this is Trump doing all of this. Wrong. Trump may be enforcing federal law, but the federal law is long established. If you're a criminal alien, you're in the country, you get deported. That's current federal law. The president, Constitutional 101 law, the president's power is at its absolute peak when it is in full alignment with, when his actions are in alignment with what Congress has passed as law. When the president is enforcing federal law together at the same, that is when there's really very few times will the Supreme Court overrule that. Just the way the Constitution is set up and based on precedent. So here Trump isn't just doing something on a whim. He has sent his agents of the federal government to enforce laws passed by Congress. And the Democrats are going, no. The Democrats are the same people, essentially, that fought against civil rights reforms in the 50s and early 60s. That's what this is. They can scream all they want about the invasion of Chicago, of Illinois. They can holler all they want. They sound like segregationists, which is a comfortable place for Democrats to be given their history. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Busy day for the Department of Justice. James Comey arraigned today in Virginia. He was allowed to go into the courthouse through the garage, a back exit, basically given the VIP treatment. Didn't get the same loving care that Roger Stone and others got when they were arrested by the Biden regime. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. I'm heartened by this arrest here. I got to tell you, this Department of Justice announced yesterday that a couple of social media agitators were taken into custody. Now, let me tell you what this is about. There are people going online saying horrible things and inciting people to violence. A guy named Frank Wazut allegedly posted a video on Instagram that identified and displayed photographs of an ICE officer who works in the Northern District of Georgia. And he wrote on the screen, got it kind of behind him as a backdrop. He says, and he's an ICE agent. This is him unmasked. So go ahead and make him famous. And if you see this, beep, out in public, give him the cell block 1 treatment, catch him when he's alone. Now, the cell block 1 treatment refers to subjecting people to a random act of violence when no one's looking. We all understand that. Another guy, Anthony Noto, posted a comment also on Instagram under the picture of the same officer's wife saying, anyone want to test the sights on their new AR, referring to a rifle. Pretty good target right there. I don't have these 2 videos. They've been taken down, but I have another one. It's a makeup artist on TikTok, Joelle Phillips. And these are the kind of things, these are kind of sick things that you see all the time, and they're becoming commonplace. And I'm glad to see that the authorities are cracking down on it.
You know, ICE agents have children too. Most of them have children too. And it's not as hard as you think to figure out who they are, where they go to school, their names. It's not hard at all.
Yeah, commonplace. This is why I say that the Jones thing, Jay Jones thing, the guy who's running for attorney general in Virginia, why the Democrats are giving it a pass. They're all talking like this. It's disturbing. They all, and because they want, they've already lost the election, they want to thwart Trump's policies as best as they can. By the way, Nancy Pelosi today on CNN's Inside Politics with Dana Bash was asked about Jay Jones. And her response was she punted. Nancy Pelosi said it's all up to Virginians what they do. But notice how easy she's going on him.
There is a Democrat running for attorney general who's embroiled in a scandal over text messages in which he, the Democrat, said that the GOP Speaker of the House of Delegates should get 2 bullets to the head for how he paid tribute to a former moderate Democratic lawmaker who died. He has apologized. Should he get out of the race?
Well, that's up to the people, the leaders in Virginia. They have said he has apologized. What I understand is they say that on balance he's the better person to be attorney general, but that's up to them.
Okay. Well, he's a better person for it. He's apologized. That's all you need to do. You just need to apologize. I didn't know that during the whole canceling movement of concern, all you had to do, little did we know, was just apologize. Nobody gave us that memo. And yet, honestly, what Jay Jones wrote and what he said is orders of magnitude worse than anything I've seen in politics really on our side. Well, can you imagine Republicans standing up for a prominent Republican who wrote that he wanted to see kids be shot? I know a lot of, political Republicans. I do. I can't think of a single one of the people that I know who would be okay with this. So now we're back to where we started. If the Democrat Party is defined by its innate narcissism, listener Kelly in his email reminded me of this again, the innate narcissism of these individuals. They're always right. Doesn't matter what they do because they are on the right side of things. They can never be wrong. If they win, it's democracy working. If they lose, their fight to do what they think is right is democracy. When there's violence on their side, it's not their side that did it. There's always an excuse. There's no responsibility for the people over at Reddit or the people at MSNBC or CNN or anywhere for radicalizing people and winding them up to such a point that they would have immense hatred in their hearts, sufficient to harm people. During the Biden regime, we sat here and every week, another story of some family somewhere in a nice, bucolic, quiet neighborhood getting raided at 6 a.m. by Biden's FBI thugs just because dad or mom showed up on January 6th, carried a Trump sign, walked into the Capitol, basically a trespass, a ticket, if you will. Treated like they were part of Al-Qaeda, terrorizing children, scarring families. You know, do we walk around with such hatred that we were going to go start taking out FBI agents? We knew what had to be done. We had to win in the polls. We had to rally around Trump. We had to fight this fight politically and take back the country. No point was there a call to arms to go beat these people up, dox them, and shoot their kids. But I was pretty angry. I don't know about you. Grandmas getting arrested praying outside abortion clinics. This is despicable stuff. I hope that every decent Democrat is embarrassed by their party. And by the way, we welcome you to our side. We have room for you. You don't have to agree with everything we say. We're a Big Ten party, believe it or not. See you, Mirejovsky.